Before we get into the stories, I want to mention that, as crazy as it may sound, all the stories are allegedly true. I myself researched into it and found out that there is something called an incubus, and many people have had experiences with it, and I think the paranormal encounters in these stories are most like incubuses too.
About 7 years ago, I had relatively limited interactions with spirits. I was deeply spiritual, not religious, and I have times where I believed I had seen ghosts, felt chills, seen figures or shadows, etc. I had been living in my own home with one sibling, a roommate, and a family member who you could say was a relative. Sadly, there were a lot of things that started happening in the home that were not very positive, and many of them I considered paranormal. We were having conflict with my relative, and once she had left us to move somewhere else, the atmosphere lifted for a couple of days, so my sibling and I had begun talking about how it seemed there was a bad spirit attached to her. We decided it was best not to let her move back in. After that, a lot of positive things started happening in the home. We were using sage and rituals to clean out the bad stuff, and things were fine. Later at night on one of these days, it was very quiet in my bedroom, and I was in total darkness. I remember researching how to unlock my third eye for a while, and I had noticed there were some good spirits that had come out to play. But everything was deafeningly quiet and still. I stared up at the ceiling and noticed something swirling. Then it took on a human shape, a feminine figure. I must say a very nice female figure, a light with a goldenish flame-looking aura and gold threads or something, and I felt kind of warm like we were being pulled together. What followed was something I never expected. I felt like something was trying to push my clothes off. Tingling sensations ensued, followed by a burning sensation that was very hot but did not hurt. It felt too good to resist, so I just let it unfold. I would probably be wrong if I said what I felt was exactly like making out. It felt ethereal, yet physical at the same time, and I was scared at first, but I kept hearing in the gentlest voice, "Relax, I won't hurt you." It was crazy intense and long. I don't remember how long it lasted, but my fear kind of evaporated because it went from intense to gentle. Sometime afterward, I asked her name and she told me it was Ava. I kind of just internalized it the next day, and at work, I found myself smiling and happy, and a lot of my normal day stress was minimal because I just felt so good. I was just trying to understand what was happening, and a few days later, she showed up laying on my bed. We had a conversation I don't remember all the details of, and this time it was daytime. I remember it happening again fairly quickly. Pretty soon it became a regular occurrence, and I kept it a guarded secret from everyone. I remember every time I spoke to her, it was very sweet, and she was never cruel. I have had experiences with Ava for many years now, and there have been times where she was absent because of difficulties I've had, or living situations that did not work out. But recently, the same type of amazing experience that happened all those years ago happened again, and I found myself kind of much more enamored with her than before. I don't expect everyone to have experience with these kinds of things, but I have come to be very familiar with it, even though I've had to take a hiatus due to mental and sexual health problems. She even told me to take some time to take care of myself, instead of trying to prioritize spending time with her. I'm now 27 years old, and I still don't have a real flesh and blood girlfriend. I had a pretty horrible experience with a sociopath girl in high school that hurt me deeply, damaging my ability to trust others, but I have formed a great deal of trust when I find the time to communicate with her, and she is a very good listener. There was way more to my relationship than just the sexual elements. She's taken walks with me, watched me do things like read a book or watch TV, and made comments on stuff she noticed before me, had really long and detailed conversations on all sorts of topics. And wow, talk about a smart girl and open-minded too. And she's even been like an actual girlfriend or wife, telling me when something I'm doing is not good for me, ask me to brush my teeth or if I've eaten breakfast that morning. The list goes on. It's nice having a companion or guide of some sort in the absence of people because I had been a shut-in for so long until recently when I started going to social events. I figure there is a reason this is happening in the first place, and I'm hoping I can learn something valuable from all this in spite of the occasional downturns.
I'm a 17-year-old girl living in a council house and just recently have been having strange experiences. It all started about 3 months ago when I was laying down to go to sleep at about 11 or 11:30 in the night, when I suddenly felt this intense heat spread across my face and legs, nowhere else. First, I thought it was simply because my room was too warm, but when I got out of bed to open a window, I noticed it was actually quite chilly and decided against opening the window, went back to bed, and fell asleep. Next night was worse. I went to bed at about the same time and opted to sleep on my back. I normally sleep on my side, but was having trouble at dozing off. I felt this tingly sensation just above my right knee, kind of like pins and needles, but softer. Then I noticed that the sheets were moving ever so slightly around my legs. Naturally, I started to panic and refused to move out of fear, but the tingling continued up my leg, and when it was just short of my groin, I quickly rolled over onto my right. The sensation stopped. After managing to calm down enough to actually close my eyes and drift off ever so slightly, I felt a warm pressure against my back from my neck down to my hips. To be honest, the warmth was actually kind of nice, and for some reason I wasn't panicking much, just curious. The pressure got a bit more heavy, and I felt something grind against my lower back. Now, having been in relationships before, I knew what certain things felt like, and if I wasn't mistaken, the pressure that was grinding against me felt just like a man's private area, as if he was spooning me. After that, I don't remember what happened and simply woke up in the morning and went about my day as normal. The next night, nothing happened, but on the night after I had what must have been a wet dream. Despite my age, I've never actually had any. What was so strange was that it all conspired within my room as if I was actually there, awake. The guy looked in mid-20s, or might even be in late 20s, I am not sure. At the same time, it was also like there was no one there at all. He was just fondling me at first. I could feel everything as if it was actually happening. Before he could get any further, I simply woke up, in the same position I had been in the dream. My alarm clock showed it was exactly 6 o'clock, but I was too scared to go back to sleep, so I got dressed for school and waited downstairs to leave. This occurred frequently after then, but as time passed I got more comfortable, and I would even say that I felt it to be pleasant. Every once in a while this spirit or whatever it is will just lay next to me doing nothing but just cuddle me. I tried talking to it, but it never talked back. I might be crazy, but it feels as real as it can be. And I think I also have developed sort of a crush on this thing over the time.
I've had my fair share of spirits around me. I have seen spirits all my life and am somewhat sensitive to them. When I was 16, I believe I was attacked by an incubus. It wasn't until I did some research on the internet that I figured out what really happened to me. I do believe in ghosts. They do scare me, but they also fascinate me. It all started one night. I had just climbed into bed and was lying on my side, ready to go to sleep. I was only lying down for a few seconds when my whole body became paralyzed, and I felt really weird, and my ears were ringing. I was totally aware of my surroundings when this was happening to me. I could see this dark figure of what seemed like a man walking towards my bed. My heart started to race, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack because my heart was beating so fast. As he came closer, I started to feel really warm and kind of turned on. I was so scared. When he was standing beside me, he started to lift up the blankets and started to touch me. That's when I became really scared. I tried to call for help, but I couldn't. It started to feel me all over, and that's when I blanked out. When I woke up the next morning, I couldn't understand what had happened. I didn't tell anyone and just brushed it off. Sometime later that week, when I tried to fall asleep one night, I heard this man whisper something in my ear. I jumped up and looked around, but no one was there. I don't know what he whispered to me. I could never make it out. A few weeks later, the whispering returned when I tried to sleep, but I still couldn't hear what this guy was saying. It went away for a while, but then it returned. The whispering continued, but I just ignored it. When I came home from school one day, I felt really sleepy, so I decided to have a nap. As I lay on my bed, I felt something lie beside me and put its arm around my waist. I didn't feel scared at all. I actually felt really safe. I had this really vivid dream about this really hot guy with this girl who looked like me. We were lying in bed together, and he had his arm around my waist. We were laughing and joking. We looked really happy, like we were in love. When I woke up, there was no one there, so I thought it was a friendly ghost and didn't think anything of it. I didn't think much of the dream either, as I don't dream that much. Later that week, I was feeling kind of tired, so I decided to have a nap. I was only asleep for a few minutes when I woke up to this feeling of intercourse. I woke up and was really drowsy, like I was drugged. I looked around, but nothing was there, and that's when I felt really drowsy and fell back to sleep. I woke up a few minutes later to feel something kissing me, but I couldn't see anything yet again. I felt really drowsy and fell back to sleep. When I woke up, I thought it was my imagination. The spirit went away for a while but recently came back. But, I now know what it is after constantly surfing the internet. I found a few stories about an incubus which really fascinated me. I finally learned what was happening to me. The whispering returned at night when I tried to sleep. I started hearing noises in my bedroom, like things being moved around and being played with. It really freaked me out, so I started going to bed later than usual, hoping that I could go to bed in peace. Sometimes I would wake up in the morning and still feel tired, like I wasn't getting enough sleep at night. This continued for months until one night I was asleep and was woken up by something. As I opened my eyes, I saw this dark figure lying beside me in bed. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, but I felt really weird, like the night that I was first attacked. I could make out some of his features. His eyes were dark, and I could see the whites of his eyes. He had a nose and a mouth. He looked human to me, except that he was black like a demon. He said something to me, but I couldn't make it out. I asked if I could go back to sleep, but he just laughed at me like he was surprised that I wasn't afraid of him. He wanted to hold me, but I said no, and he stopped. After that, I fell asleep. I was surprised that my incubus showed himself to me, but I'm not scared of him at all now. When my incubus is in my house, he creates this ticking noise like a clock, only faster, like he is letting me know that he is there. He also makes my attic creak like mad when he's around. Sometimes it's really loud that it makes me jump. My incubus is like my protector. He follows me everywhere like he is watching out for me. I like him being around, and I don't mind that he follows me. I feel really safe when he is around. He is really sweet and caring and listens to me. He has never hurt me. I really care about him as well, and when he leaves for a while, I feel like my best friend is missing. He has been with me for 4 years as I am now 20. Don't tell me that incubi are dangerous and can kill you, or I would be dead by now. And don't tell me to get rid of him. I have heard it all before, and it really annoys me. My incubus is not dangerous, he is loving, and I really care about him. When I was depressed, he made me better. I was happy again thanks to him. I know he will never hurt me. I feel like I have known him before, but I don't know where from. He told me that I was his girlfriend back in like the 1900s and that he wanted to marry me.
I'm 19, from Melbourne, Australia. I have had really weird events happen in the past few years regarding the supernatural. I was 15 when I had the first encounter with a ghost. I believe he may have been there throughout most of my childhood, but I can't quite remember exactly if he was or not. The first encounter that I had was when I was in my bedroom. I was climbing up the ladder to my top bunk when I felt what seemed like hands pushing on my shoulders, making me fall to the floor. It wasn't just gravity. I definitely felt pressure on my shoulders. It really scared me, but I kept it to myself. When I finally got the courage to go to bed late that night, I felt what was a hand caressing my legs. I felt something breathe on the back of my neck. I was so scared, I screamed. My parents came running into my room to see what was wrong. I told them, and they thought it was just the neighbour's cat in my room again. I slept in the lounge room that night. I had also been hearing footsteps in my room at night later that week. When I was going to school, I felt as if something was holding my arm everywhere I walked. It was so weird. I didn't know what to make of it. I had started dating a guy around the time that this had happened. Not long after the ghost had scared the living daylights out of me, the guy I was dating had sexually abused me. And I don't know how, but I felt this ghost thing made several attempts to comfort me. I'm 19 now, and recently I've been having the weirdest things happen to me. I always wear a necklace my grandmother gave me. I keep getting the sensation it's being lifted and played with like I sometimes do, except it's not caught on my hair or anything, and I'm not touching it. I have found things in my room that have been moved, and no one goes into my room as they have no reason to. Nothing is knocked over, it's just out of place or in weird spots. I have a pink Yoshi toy on my desk. I went into my room after lunch and found it on my computer like a magnet. It has magnets in its hands, but I have never been able to get it to stay up that high before. The odd thing was that it wasn't on metal where it usually sticks. It was stuck on plastic. When I listen to music, I keep hearing someone calling me, but no one is calling me. I will be watching TV and have the same thing happen. I heard someone talking to me today, but it wasn't anyone's voice I recognize. It was very deep. I asked my brother if he said anything, and he hadn't. I have been feeling like hands have been rubbing up my leg and caressing my neck. Also, I feel like I'm being kissed. When I sleep, I feel as if something is watching me, and sometimes lying next to me. I once sat on the middle of my bed, patting my cat, and then I couldn't see what, but something sat down and made the bed sink down, and the bottom hit the floor. I'm pretty sure it's not just me gaining a few extra pounds. It definitely doesn't feel bad. The energy is letting off a different feeling. It generally feels like a loving feeling over a negative feeling. Even when I was pushed, it felt more concerned. So I don't know, but sometimes when I am having a terrible day, it definitely feels comforting.